Welcome to your If Astrology Isn't Real minisode, presented to you by Cosmic RX Radio, where I spill the tea on this week's headlines. Politics, pop culture, world events, all written in the stars. Let's dive in. If astrology isn't real, then why is our new Pope naming himself Pope Leo when he has a Jupiter moon in Leo and he was elected in during a Mars in Leo? Can it get any more literal? I don't think so. I'm going to get into his chart upon your request and more, including some interesting Civil War astrology. We're going to talk a little Diddy, a little Tay-Tay on today's mini-sode. But first, welcome. This is your Friday edition of the If Astrology Isn't Real counterpart to Cosmic RX Radio's Energy Report. This is where I'm just going to dish on politics, pop culture, what's happening on the world stage, how can we use it to better understand astrology, ourselves, the collective moment. If you're looking for the full energy report, the moon manifesting, what to do with the planets, what's going on with Venus, check that out on the Monday energy report as usual. But thank you all for being here. I just love having this space to spill the celestial tea with you all. It's endlessly fascinating and it truly just tickles my heart. There's so many of you on this journey with me who just want to know what's going on in the charts and the hearts of all these people we hear about. So like I mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about some Civil War astrology, what it means for us now. We're going to talk about that Scorpio full moon. It stirred up some things. It stirred up some courtroom drama because that Scorpio moon came to reveal, it came to investigate, it came to be like, let's bring some shit up to the surface. And we saw that happen with some big ass celebrities, some big Scorpio names. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the new Pope's birth chart and just poke around in it, see how we're feeling. Again, no attachment either way. We're never putting anyone on a pedestal. We're never counting anyone out. It's like just a fun practice here to kind of look at the chart and see what we see in it, what we see in ourselves in it. And then before we get into all that, there's a new trend, something on the Instagram and TikToks. There's a trend called the girl I was in 2017. There's an artist who sings the song. You could search it on Instagram. I'm going to do a post of it. And I think it's interesting. I invite all of you to look up the song, look up the trend. And this is, to me, if astrology isn't a real moment, because two things. Because in 2017, there's some very interesting astrology that we are kind of looking at now, closing out now, but also returning to in interesting ways. In 2017, we were finishing up the tail end of Uranus in Aries, and we were moving into Uranus in Taurus. So this is interesting. Why? Because right now we are in the tail end of Uranus in Taurus, and we're going to be moving into Uranus in Gemini. And we're also simultaneously moving into Saturn in Aries, and we're in Neptune in Aries. And again, if you're new here, these outer planets are really important for us from an evolutionary standpoint in our personal macro journey, kind of like the major arcana of our life journey. And then also collectively the cycles of history we go through. So I want everyone to go back, do this practice that's trending right now on the gram, on TikTok, that's asking you, the girl I was in 2017, the boy I was, the person I was then, and look back and see how far you've come, see what you've learned. And I want you to look at this through the astrological lens because two important things are happening. This new Uranus cycle we're going through, again, it's going to be going to Gemini on July 7th. It's going to be going in and out, and it'll land there in a more final way for the next 7 years in 2026. But Uranus brings a revolution to our life. It brings a lot of upheaval, a lot of shock, a lot of things we didn't expect, innovation. And again, it's good, bad, we don't really attach those labels to it in astrology. But Uranus and Taurus, I remember when I was going through this trend of, the girl I was in 2017, I was thinking this is when I started to get really a little bit deeper into studying these outer planet transits in the moment as they were happening. I remember reading Uranus is going into Taurus. What does that mean? And I found an old article on astro.com that I had read in 2018, right when Uranus went into Taurus. And I was like, what is this going to mean? And just for us thinking about as Uranus moved into Taurus, it said it was going to bring an irresistible force meets an immovable object. And people were talking about like, buckle up, the next few years of astrology are going to be really intense. We have Uranus in Taurus, then we have Saturn moving into Capricorn, which was going to start in 2017 and then kind of culminate in 2020 with the Saturn Pluto Jupiter conjunction in Capricorn. And we all know that 2020 absolutely brought some earth shaking, paradigm shifting world, never going back the same way astrology. And so Uranus is changing and challenging the status quo in our lives. And in this article, it said that Uranus was going to do this in Taurus from everything from farming and food to our five senses, to finance and banking, border issues, to things with our five senses. Did I say that already? To relationship to our physical body, to real estate. And I remember at the time being like, what is this all going to mean? And now I'm like, oh yeah, astrology is very literal. So I want you to buckle up, because Uranus is coming to bring the same revolution to the Gemini part of your chart, but also Gemini themes in our society. So that's A. And then B, I do want you to think about that Uranus in Aries that was happening in 2017, like finishing up the tail end of it, was bringing, it had been there for 7 years. So it had been there since 2010. And Uranus in Aries brought the revolution of the self, the I am, and literally birthed like the selfie, right? This was the peak, the height, the inception of social media culture in terms of like me, myself, and I. We can be anything we want to be, right? If we have an internet connection and a phone, we don't no longer need an art gallery to confirm we're an artist. Our Instagram can do that. We no longer need a modeling agency to confirm we're a model. We no longer need to go to, a culinary school to be confirmed as a chef. We can all do these things now through social media, which is very exciting. Obviously, social media has brought on a load of things, like everything in life, right? Opportunities, obstacles, blessings, burdens. It's up to kind of us what we make of it. So I want you to look back in that period of your life in 2017, what was going on in terms of your revolution, your relationship to yourself, that Aries part of your chart, and also Taurus, the Taurus part of your chart, your values, the world around you, your physical belongings, your resources. And I want you to kind of get ready and know that we're on the precipice, on the threshold of another moment in time. And of course, this trend, if astrology isn't real, is literally asking us through this song, through this trending moment, to like go dig up the photo albums, dig up what was going on in our life then, so we could really bring ourselves back to that place, reflect on this journey, digest, which is so important, to like look back on everything we've accomplished and be like, damn, I did it once, I can do it again. Let's bring it on, Uranus. Let's bring it on, universe. So before I get into the collective, I just had to drop that in as a note for you. Let me know if you're watching this on YouTube. We have the comments. Let me know if you do this trend, if anything comes up for you. If you do this trend on Instagram, definitely tag us at the Cosmic RX. Okay, so moving on. So let's talk a little bit about on the world stage, some things that we saw. Like I said, we have been talking a lot about this year, 2025. I've been mentioning it for probably the past 4 years, that this year brings a lot of similar astrology to the Civil War. We have Neptune move into Aries on March 30th. And then we have Uranus is going to go into Gemini, like I mentioned, on July 7th. And, this is astrology of the Civil War. So again, we're just acknowledging this with preparation, with feeling aware, with knowing that 2025, 2026 are going to bring huge, huge shifts to us here in the US that are going to ripple out into the, whole world, I would say. But also things that like, what can we learn from watching the cycles of history in the past, and how do we use that and apply it so we can do better, move better this time around. But as some of you might have seen in the news this week, the Trump administration is flirting with the suspension of habeas corpus, which is the constitutional right for individuals to challenge unlawful detention. And there's only been Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, suggested that the current level of quote unquote, her words, not mine, illegal immigration might justify such a suspension, interpreting mass border crossings as a rebellion or an invasion under the Constitution, according to some Reuters news sources in the New Yorker. And I'm like, okay, so that's interesting. So what do you think, Bueller, anyone here, points for anyone who guesses it right, when do you think was the last time that the United States has ever suspended habeas corpus? Yes, during the Civil War. Not just during the Civil War, but Let's pull up the exact date here. History buffs. President Lincoln suspended habeas corpus in 1861. This was, the only time it happened without congressional authorization. And it was, because we were in obviously the Civil War. And President Lincoln, did this in several areas, including Maryland and later throughout the Union, in order to suppress dissent and maintain public order. And when do we think Neptune moved into Aries? Yes, April 13th, 1861. Astrologically, we've been talking about the echoes of the Civil War era. And if astrology isn't real, then why did we witness such crazy historical parallels this week with the habeas corpus, the flirting and the suspension of that, something we have never heard, at least in my lifetime. And again, this is just not to scare us. This is never about scaring us. This isn't even about having a place to bitch and moan about the presidential administration, even though I could do that all day. And I did get a review this week that was I love this podcast, but the bitching and moaning about the president, enough is enough. But that's why we have this dedicated space to do this. If you just want to listen to the astrology, go on Monday. And it's not just about bitching and moaning. Yeah, I could do that for days, honey. This is just also about, more importantly, having the awareness so we know what are the pratfalls, the pitfalls we can avoid. What are we supposed to learn from this moment? And how do we prepare ourselves? Especially the biggest thing is, we can't control, unfortunately, so much what happens with our political leaders, how they're deciding to do things, but we can, of course, be loud. We can use our voice. We can vote with our dollars. And I think one of the best things that we can do is show up really with regulated nervous systems and know when to not buy into the fear, know how to use our efforts and our hearts and our charts to co-create a better and more beautiful world. And that's so much of what I want my upcoming book to do in the cosmic zone, is to create and craft new ways of being for you to show up as your most alive and awakened and inspired self, because I think that is such a key to the revolution. Okay. So, I know it sometimes I do probably just come on here and I'm like you, I can't help it. I'm just oh my God, more of this. But I do want us to just understand why we talk about the astrology of this moment. So let me know in the comments below what you think of this. And let me know if you find anything else in the news that feels if it's giving Civil War energy, and how do we make sense of that and use that as we move forward. Okay. So let's shift gears to the Scorpio full moon. So we know that this past Monday we had the Scorpio full moon, and oh my God, can we just talk about her for a second? Let me know in the comments. I'm so curious what happened to you. I love hearing how astrology plays out for you, in the literal sense. I always say, as an astrologer, I'm the review of the movie. I know the plot lines, I know the big outline, but I love hearing from you how the scenes actually played out. So May 12th, we had the full moon in Scorpio. We know the full moon in Scorpio was about shining a light on the Scorpio places in our birth chart. And if you have Scorpio, sun, moon, rising, you probably felt it extra. You probably felt extra clarity. Something is coming through really loud and clear. And really for all my fixed sign placements, Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius. And, for me personally, I'm just going to say I have a house full of Scorpio energy. I have my Scorpio rising life wizard. I have my Scorpio rising baby. I have my Scorpio sun, Mars and Scorpio. And trust me, the full moon on my toddler's Mars and Scorpio, I was feeling the first ever tantrum in public. And again, we walked it out. We breathed it out. All was good. I thought we were in the clear. And then bam, Mama Maddie, the Scorpio, my fifth house, gets freaking purged by the full moon. Food poisoning in the craft. I don't even know if it was food poisoning. I swear to God, it was just an existential, cosmic karmic cleansing from the Scorpio full moon. I just had a wild, few hours overnight on Monday night of just throwing up, vomiting, done in the morning, but I was cleansed out. But I think I've been going too hard, too fast. I've been just doing the most. So I needed to just sit my ass down and drink electrolytes, eat some saltines, and do nothing. So thank you, Scorpio full moon. And then I had a few really beautiful, just creative breakthroughs, right? That fifth house part of my chart. And so I was okay, I see you, Scorpio full moon. So let me know how it showed up for you. And, someone that I think we think about in the news as a very famous Scorpio, P. Diddy, definitely had some literal astrology going on there. So we've talked about Diddy on this podcast before. And of course, the opening statements of his trial happened on May 12th, the day of the Scorpio full moon. And, obviously the astrologer in me was nerding out and saying that Diddy, looking at his chart, we've talked about it before, but Diddy has his natal sun in Scorpio, which is obviously huge, his identity. But he also has his Mercury in Scorpio, which is again like thoughts, words, how he communicates. And Mercury can also represent like how you're kind of vibing with the media, in addition, in conjunction with your midheaven. And then Neptune's in the sign of Scorpio. And so Neptune can also be like illusion, delusion, where people they kind of escape reality and even try to hide things, especially Neptune and Scorpio. And it's just interesting in the full moon hitting all of that. It's like it's all going to start coming out in this trial in this public way. And I think, like, again, that just looking at his chart, we all know, like, I think this is just the beginning. I think it's going to be unfurling so much more. And it ties into one of our bigger themes that we're always keeping an eye on here, our Pluto and Aquarius watch, Pluto and Aquarius corner, where Pluto and Aquarius opposite Leo, the sign of the celebrity of fame, Pluto and Aquarius is really coming to like totally strip down this concept of like fame and celebrity and all of these constructs and systems that kept like that I think keep this really unhealthy power dynamic, abusive power, especially in the entertainment industry going. So let's keep an eye on that. Let's see what's going on as we go on that trial. I am not like a celebrity trial watcher, but I do like watch people who watch it. So let me know again in the comments below if anything comes up that feels very like Scorpio full moon. And just as a reminder, in any full moon, we kind of feel the lead up for the 3 days before, we feel the come down for the 3 days after, and then we see like the big effects or the unfolding for 2 weeks. So let's be like, just for the next 2 weeks, let's just use our cosmic detective eyes and be like, okay, what feels really Scorpio full moon in the news around the Diddy trial? So the other thing that feels very scorpionic in pop culture, and I think when it comes to the justice system, and let me know your thoughts on this isn't like official hard and fast law, but with the justice system, I think a lot about Libra and Scorpio. I think about Libra as the scales of justice, right? Like the one kind of like bringing people to court, maintaining law and order, Lady Liberty. And then I think about Scorpio as like what comes out during the trial, or like the investigators, or the hard, like in the movie, that the really cutthroat prosecutors who, get in there with their cross-examining the witness. I think a lot about that as Scorpio, kind of like what happens during trial, what happens during, what do we bring out in like in evidence, and I'm forgetting all those words. I feel like my childhood, I watched so many like court procedural dramas and like love some Law and Order SVU, and all of that part just feels so scorpionic to me. So this week when we had like 2 major celebrity courtroom things in the news, I was like, Scorpio full moon. And the second one being Taylor Swift. So if you missed it, she was subpoenaed. Now this happened right before the full moon, and she was subpoenaed by Blake Lively's team for the thing we've talked about here on this podcast, the whole like it ends with us drama. So, well, first of all, let's just talk about her chart a little bit. Some people think she's a Capricorn rising. Some people think she's a Scorpio rising. We don't have her birth chart, her birth time locked into stone. I hope one day she gives it to us, like Beyonce did to us this past like week or two. So let me know, do you think she's a Cap rising or Scorpio rising? Now, Cap rising, she is an amazing businesswoman. She's like a billionaire. She does some stuff that feels very Cap rising to me. But I also just feel like the Scorpio rising in her, with her like, she definitely has gone through lots of transformation. She's very powerful. I think like, I know we probably associate success with Capricorn, but I associate success with Scorpio. That Pluto-Mars combo of the rulers of Scorpio is like, when I have my eyes set on something, I'm not going to stop till I get it to be mine. And, the relationship with her exes, and writing about her exes, or writing about people who wronged her, or just doing the whole like Taylor's version, it all feels very like Scorpio rising. And I find a lot of people who are very magnetic, who have a certain like huge appeal with their crowds, with fans, whether they're in, actors, actresses, singers. I find a lot of them have heavy Scorpio placements. So you let me know. So I'm going to just talk about her chart a little bit as if she had Scorpio rising, but she has her Mars in Scorpio, like my baby Scorpio. And like I said, my baby Scorpio was angry on that full moon in Scorpio. First little baby temper tantrum. And, when the Scorpio moon illuminates and hits any full moon hits your Mars, you might experience like a lot of anger. Let me know if this has ever happened to you. But yeah, like I think he thinks based on her chart and based on this statement that was released that she was angry. So, we know the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation to me just feels like this big ego, like entanglement that like the whole world has gotten caught up in and that we're watching. And I keep talking about it here, not because I like super care necessarily, but I do think it's a great example, A, of astrology at play in terms of our individual charts. B, it's a good example of just what not to do all around with what's happening. And C, it does feel again like this very Pluto and Aquarius moment. It's just like another moment of like bringing down, the veil, taking a peek behind the curtain. Just these people that we can like overly glamorize or romanticize as celebrities. And so if we missed it, the Blake Lively team essentially brought Taylor in on this drama. And Taylor made this, I'm going to pull it up here. Hold on. Release the statement. Okay, here it is. I have it pulled up. So it says, a spokesperson for Taylor Swift on Friday said an attempt to subpoena the pop star as a witness in Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's case is designed to use the singer's name to draw public interest. So essentially, Blake Lively's team is trying to use Taylor as a pawn in their chess game. But like here's the thing about Taylor Swift. Love her, hate her, she's not a pawn. So Swift's team rejected the notion that she would have any relevant information and should not be involved in the legal tangle. And they said, Taylor Swift, now are we ready for this? This is some shade, okay? This is how you serve shade. This is how you serve cunt. But in the most like professional bad bitch boss bitch manner. Taylor Swift never set foot on the set of this movie. She was not involved in any casting or creative decisions. She did not score the film. She never saw an edit or made any notes on the film. She did not even see it. It ends with us until weeks after its public release and was traveling around the globe during 2023 and 2024, lining the biggest tour in history. Okay, so shade. It's like, this is basically like saying, honey, I'm sorry, in case you missed it, I was kind of busy hosting the most successful tour of all time and did not have time for this like childhood schoolyard, like ego drama, gossip bullshit. And so, and then since then, all this stuff has come out in the news that like Blake Lively is, Justin Baldoni thinks that Blake Lively's lawyers are extorting Taylor Swift and pressuring her to show support. And Blake Lively thinks that, by Taylor coming out and saying something, it would pull the court of public opinion on her side. And she did recently do an interview. This has been like the hardest and best year of her life. And I just think her public image has gone through the ringer. And if she had had a professional astrologer on her side, there's so many things she could have avoided or corrected in the course of this whole proceedings, but she hasn't. So if you want an astrologer, hi Blake, I would love to cosmic consult for you. And yeah, I just think though that like that statement, a lot of times celebrities just don't make public statements. They'll just like not say anything. And I think that Taylor saying that publicly was so the full moon on her Mars, being like, this damn pissed me off. And I can't believe that like you're dragging me into this. And I do think that Taylor is, from just peeking at her chart, I just think she's a lot going on personally. I can do a full, other deep dive on her chart if you want me to, another episode. But I think she has a lot of transformative energy in her relationship. I actually think that Travis Kelce and her are weirdly like a good match. And I think that, listen, I've talked about it before, but I do like their synastry. Like, I think that there's something authentic there. We never really know what's happening in these, famous couples, but I do think that there is something authentic there. And also, like, I do love a Libra man. My Libra life wizard, like a good Libra is a good catch and obviously speaks to her Libra moon. But they do have some, what would be considered like marriage signatures in their chart. I think Taylor Swift has some possible pregnancy. Again, just speculating, from, celestially speculating for funsies here, but some pregnancy things in her chart. And I think that like she might be feeling a little bit like this cringe / anger of like, I don't want to be dragged into this bullshit. I have a lot of important things happening in my personal life. My name has been dragged through the mud for, reasons good and bad on my own. I don't need this shit. Taylor's 7th house, which is ruled by Virgo, is where we talked about Blake Lively has a Virgo stellium. And that's where the South Node is right now. And right, I talked about it on last week's episode. We're just seeing a lot of like Virgo stuff swirling in the collective conscious and then also in ourselves, of like the Virgo part of our chart is probably going through some kind of repair, renovation, redoing, rethinking. Like, I always think about the South Node as this like rock tumbler. Let's just take something and tumble it and figure out like what are some of rough edges that we're polishing away. Maybe like a garbage disposal is also a good definition. Let me know if you have a good visual for the South Node, but I definitely see it as like we put some energy in, and on the other side of the South Node journey, we come out and things are really different. So I know Taylor Swift used to have, what did she call it? The squad. So her 11th house Virgo. Virgo is the woman. She had all these like power females around her. And now since then, I think she might be wanting to probably distance herself for different reasons. Some of them like Carly Kloss, Blake Lively, like maybe she's like, you guys were cool, but we're not really aligned anymore for a lot of different reasons. And I think at the end of this journey, her North Node's in Pisces in her 5th house of creativity, fertility, self-expression. She's probably going through a lot more of like being pulled in that direction and kind of in the process having to rethink, her 11th house of friends, groups, associates. And I think the subpoena is going to be like the thing that is sort of a catalyst to us seeing that happen a little bit, maybe like in the more public facing part of her. And I just want to point out, I talked about my 5th house before. This is, a North Node in her 5th house moment. If any of you are going through 5th house transits, it's fertility, it's creative expression, it's your inner child, which are all fun things. It's joyful, it's pleasure, it's play. But I want you to think about those things, your inner child, your creativity, your creative self-expression. These are all things that are deeply personal to us, right? If anybody who's ever been on a journey of visibility, of being seen, if anybody's ever been on a journey of healing their inner child, if anybody's ever been on a journey of fertility, especially if it's not been if it's been non-linear, these are very private, very personal things. So if you have people in your life that are not absolutely in full support of that, then it's like, get the fuck off the ride, right? And I talked about this a little bit on the other podcast, about like, if you're bringing fear to my island, get off my island. Like, it's not allowed there. And maybe the same thing for the drama aspect of it, right? I think we've all been there when we've outgrown certain friends. It's like, you're just not aligned like with this direction my life is going. And you're kind of like using me or only calling me when you need something from me. Like, are you checking in with me otherwise? And again, this is just me speculating, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. So we'll stay tuned. So let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know on what you think. Let me know what came out for you in the Scorpio full moon. Let me know if you want me to do a deeper dive on Taylor, or I had talked about the synastry of Taylor and Travis a while ago, but now that we have this dedicated space, let me know if you want me to play with that. Okay, so moving on. So you get lots of Scorpio full moon stuff happening in the collective main stage this week. But I did get, upon request, some of you did ask me to do a full episode on Trump's birth chart. But one, my food poisoning, she was too exhausted to kind of look at Trump's chart and break that down after the food poisoning. I'm like, enough is enough. How much punishment can one girl take? No, I'm just kidding. No, more that I want to show up really energetically clear and energized for that. But I promise you, I will do that maybe before or on or in honor of his birthday. How about that? Which is in June. Gemini season coming up, June 14th to be exact. Okay, so by June 14th, we'll do that. If you want me to do any other podcasting about any other like celebrity charts, synastry, you just let me know. This space is for you to learn, to explore, to have fun, and just to like think about all the stuff through the cosmic lens. So, okay, let's talk about Pope Leo's chart. Again, this was like the biggest request I had. Obviously, I dropped this podcast. Like, I think while I was recording this, the announcement came for the new Pope. So I was like all buzzy and like, who's it going to be? And listen, it's exciting. We have our first Pope that is from the United States, Chicago native. He went to Villanova. So Chicago, Philly, these are two just very, I would say, like lots of deep pride, very vibrant communities. So it was kind of fun to watch, right? Were we all buzzing a little bit last week? I think we were. And I know a lot of you listening to this chimed in that you are either like Catholic or culturally Catholic, raised Catholic. And I want to preface everything I'm saying. I think we all were feeling, it's a mixed bag of emotion. Okay. So I'm going to talk about 3 things that are standing out to me in Pope Leo's chart, and 3 things that like hope can give us some optimism, because I was feeling a little hopeful / popeful with this announcement, knowing fully well that the Catholic Church isn't exactly the bastion of like progress and inclusivity. We all know that, right? I made a little video on TikTok and everyone's like, well, the Catholic Church is problematic. And, Pope Leo and his Robert Prevost did this. And I know I do not love his stance on anything as regards to women, to LGBTQ community. It's the Catholic Church, okay? Like, and when we talk about progress, when we talk about Pluto and Aquarius things, especially, this kind of progress moves at a glacial pace, like a glacial pace. Okay. And keeping that in mind, it's like we have to take little wins where we can get them. And we have to look at the deeper meaning behind the wins while still holding these leaders accountable, while still knowing that like there's no one person that's coming to save us. So there was a lot of buzzy, thoughts. We have Pope Leo, a pope who literally is like, yeah, went to Villanova, who's supporting the Knicks, which I'm a New Yorker, so go Knicks, who's just kind of bringing some sort of fresh air to the papacy. And there has been, more progressive issues. Pope Leo is following in some of the footsteps of Pope Francis, just, advocating for world peace. First of all, it's just nice and weirdly refreshing, even though it's a low bar, like that a world leader just speaks about world peace. We know that Pope Leo has made statements and worked for in the past, advocating for marginalized groups, for rights for laborers, migrants, and of course has shaded JD Vance and Trump. So that alone is interesting. And it does feel like this very clear message from the Catholic Church, that if a lot of what is happening in the United States can be drawn back to Christian nationalism, there is some kind of interesting statement being made by the Catholic Church of like, what you're doing under the name of Christianity, as us, as the Catholic Church, as like the largest institution around Christianity in the world, reaching all the continents, we don't co-sign on that. And like, what's your next move from there? Especially because JD Vance is a Catholic. Again, just interesting things here for, conjecture, for having a simmer on. And then other people, I love Rev Carla on TikTok. And Rev Carla is like, hey, there's still a lot, like this could be, just go check out her posts. She's like, this Pope might also be leading us into other more problematic parts of the insidious nature of like some of these beliefs, being infiltrated into our politics, into our things that shouldn't be because of separation of church and state. So we don't know. I don't know. I'm mere mortal just like you, but I did want to point out some things in his chart that were interesting. So of course, like I just said in the start of this podcast, very interesting. Like I said at the start of the episode, we don't have his confirmed birth time. I'm hoping that comes through. I don't know how it would, but Robert Prevost, now Pope Leo the 14th, was born on September 14th, 1955. So, we don't have the exact birth time, but it's likely he is a Leo moon. He could be a Virgo moon, but a lot of astrologers think he's a Leo moon based on just a few chart rectifications I've seen online. And in that case, he would have a Leo stellium. He would have his Jupiter, his Pluto, and his moon in Leo. So if astrology isn't real, then why does a Leo stellium Pope, who was elected under Mars and Leo, name himself Pope Leo? And I've seen articles that are really cool, from different organizations. I saw one that said like world workers need Pope Leo 14th to be lion-hearted on labor justice. So I'm like, yes, a Leo moon being called to be lion-hearted is just such real and literal astrology. And if he is a Leo moon, that means in his chart, he would have his moon conjunct the fixed star Regulus, which is like the sign of the little king, the ruler, the leader. And he could be, again, this lion-hearted leader that could really impact like the trajectory of what's happening here. And again, we know that also could be a little bit of what's bringing in that fire between JD Vance, Trump, and him, as JD Vance and Trump are both Leo risings. So like, we know whenever we see someone who has like a Pluto on someone's rising, it's like, yeah, they're here to there's going to be a power match. And hopefully it just, I always think of Pluto. I do this. Pluto's like coming to bring up some shit so we can look at it all in the light of day and kind of see what's working, what's not, to put it really simplistically. So yeah, if astrology isn't real, then I love that our Pope Leo named himself, with that rising or not, that he has, especially Jupiter, right? Jupiter is the wisdom planet. Jupiter has a lot to do with like religion, but also about abundance, growth, where we get our biggest blessings from. So I love that nod to the Leo there. Second thing I love about his chart, and I'm not just saying this because of me, but like, I love having a Virgo in charge. I love having a Virgo in charge of, of the Vatican, because Virgo is like, we just do it right. And we're service-based leaders. We're heart-centered. We really are, I think, and every Virgo around me that I watch is like, we're the sign after Leo. And if you ever look at like the journey of the zodiac wheel, the sign after the previous sign learns something from the sign before, but then also course corrects. So Leo has a lot of healthy ego. Leo is the I am. And then Virgo's like, well, with what I have, what I am, how can I then serve and give to others, right? And Virgo is the maiden who has all the extra wheat from the harvest and just wants to give that surplus to others. So I'm like, I do like that not only does he have a Virgo sun, but he has a Virgo Venus, Virgo Mars. So yeah, Venus, Mars, Sun in Virgo, really speaking to like, okay, like I'm here to be of service. How can I do this? How can I help others? And he says Mercury in Libra, which is usually, again, very diplomatic, very much about peace, very much about the people, the collective, unity, inclusivity. And so I'm like, okay, like this is good. This is not a hot-headed person. This is not, a complete egomaniac. And I do think that to enter a Virgo is very devotional. Virgo is almost very monk-like as a sign. Virgo is the hermit. So like I'm really just praying and hoping that this is like this servant-based leader of this Virgo energy did show up to be of service, especially, to the marginalized, the oppressed, to the impoverished. I love like there's already been, I think, a lot of statements being round up in the internet about how, yeah, like this Pope has spoken everything from the climate crisis to, extractive capitalism to just things that are like, yeah, like any world leader should be like, this is not benefiting the people that I am here to serve. So let's keep our eyes on that. And I also want to backtrack to the Pluto conjunct Jupiter could be like having a huge amplified Pluto energy in the world of like, again, here to really disrupt some unhealthy Leo energy, unhealthy leadership, unhealthy King energy. But of course, astrology can go many different ways. So Pluto conjunct Jupiter can also be like using that religion, using that leadership, using that King kind of energy for, more for power, for control, or it could be used to reform and heal. Whatever it is, it's big. It's a big impact. So I'm like, let's use our collective energy to sway it in the right direction. And the third and final thing that I think is interesting about this Pope's chart, and I'm curious to hear your weighing in around it. Let's see, maybe I will try to just share this chart quickly so you can see here. Okay, so we see his chart here on astro.com. He has this North Node in Sag. So North Node in Sag, South Node in Gemini. His North Node in Sag is here to be a truth speaker, a truth teller, to be, and again, these are not the right houses because we don't know his birth time, but having a North Node in Sag is here to like, Sag is here, like I said, represents religion, organized institutions. A North Node in Sag could be your cosmic destiny line, your cosmic karmic like calling to bring a new energy there. And South Node in Gemini, again, like rethinking, retooling certain Gemini things, right? Releasing certain Gemini things in the past. And I think that it's also interesting because Trump has his North Node in Gemini, and so does JD Vance has his North Node in Gemini and their South Node in Sag. So there's a sort of a nodal opposition happening between them that I just, again, and and Gemini and Sag, the messengers, the storytellers, a lot happening in the main stage with those energies. And Gemini is kind of like the media. Sagittarius is like the larger storyteller. And so it's like, okay, don't expect a shortage of things for us to talk about from these three parties going forward from this. But I'm just hoping that that North Node in Sag again holds, some interesting potency. And I think the North Node in Sag too, Gemini is the sign of like your local community, who you are, and it can be in its shadow a little bit of like a little bit more, what do they call it, like anti-globalism, like which is fine in some ways actually. But I think a little bit of what's happening, at least here in the US, is we're kind of like pulling back, right, from a lot of our allies, and we're sort of isolating ourselves. A North Node in Sag in its highest calling can be about to unite like many different cultures under one unifying message. And I think that would be cool if we could see that come out of this. And so I don't know, like let me know anything that comes up for you as we're following Pope Leo, thoughts, bad, otherwise, but especially anything about his birth chart that stands out to you. Of course, I'm sure I missed a lot. I'm only, I'm already at 45 minutes. These are not mini-sodes, y'all. But let me know. I love hearing from you. I have so much fun, like in the cosmic community, just playing detective and piecing together these cosmic breadcrumbs. So yes, the Catholic Church may have a long way to go, but it's always refreshing to see a leader whose chart at least has the potentiality to see he might actually mean it when he talks about change. And so let's remain cautious cautiously hopeful. Like I said, dare I say, hopeful about this one. So that's all for the cosmic breakdown for today. Tag me in the girl you were in 2017 trend, or let me know below what's coming up for you around that. Astrology does not lie. Astrology is always going to bring the receipts for us, even if it makes us like realize, oh, damn, this is expensive. There's a lot happening right now. So stay stellar, stay cosmically chaotic, and just keep like marching to the own beat of your cosmic baddie truth. I will catch you next time on If Astrology Is Not Real. Do you love getting your cosmic RX for the week here and want more? Make sure to sign up for our premium subscription so you can get exclusive access to bonus podcast episodes, all of my astrology info for the month ahead, and live new and full moon calls to help you manifest your dream life with an intentional international community of other cosmic baddies. Sign up through our link in show notes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to know more about Cosmic RX, head on over to thecosmicrx.com. And if you really love this show, I'd love it if you left a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. I super love hearing from you and reading your reviews. All right, you cosmic baddie, tune in next week. And until then, remember, love yourself fully, work your magic, and take no shit.